questions. All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Gimel and Daled in Maseches Ksubos. So we started off, last time on Friday in our Ksubos Daf Gimel. We were discussing in the case of when a husband is obligated to start feeding his wife Mazonos. If the time comes, they already had Kedushin, which is Erison, and comes the time for Nesuin and pushes it off, whatever it is. So he has to start supporting her. So then we said over there, but if his onus happened, then it's not on him, i.e. one of the cases was, 3 days earlier, he doesn't have to because the Chachamim has a takana that you don't, can't get married until Wednesday. So therefore, those 3 days, since it's an onus, he doesn't have to do it. So Rava came with a statement, he says, however, when it comes to Gittin, it's not like this. In other words, when it comes to Gittin, we say that an onus is too bad, right? Tough Charlies, or as Ozzy said, tough noogies, Ksubos. Here we go.
Please, that's the wrong one.
Now, so we left off at Umiika, 4 lines from the top on Gimel Amud Aleph.
When did they get married? Wednesday? Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday.
And
now,
3 days before.
Shaktu, right. Now, Umiika midoraisa lahavi gita, lahavi get. Is there something that midoraisa, it's not a get? In other words, because if you're saying that it was a takana, that onus doesn't work, we said mishum prutzos and snuos, right? We said women might attribute it to that and say that really the get is not valid. But really, the deraisa, the get is valid because we do take onus into an account. But just because the prutas and snuos, we say, okay, we're not going to make excuses. We should prutas sharin and ashes liyama. But because of this takana, we're going to say the get works, and we're going to permit an ashes liyama. So my answer is yes. Called the mekadesh the rabbanon mekadesh, right? Rafkin rabbanon the kiddushei mineh. He says, no, that since everybody, when they get married, they say, Kedas Moshe B'Yisrael, it's through the takana of the Chachamim. Therefore, they indeed do have the power to go ahead and uproot their the marriage, and therefore we'll say she's no longer an Eish. So I'm related to Rav Ashi, Satina Kaddish B'Kaspa. Okay, this makes sense. And one of the Kasav, you'll say the Kasav Kedushin is is nothing as hefker. Kash Bia Ma'ikle. We're going to say Kash Bia. So Shavina Rabbanan Bilas Bilas. So we'll say that the Bia was Bilas Nus, and therefore there was no marriage. Ika Damri, right around a third of the way down. Ika Damri. Now some have a different version of Rava. Amar Rava v'chein le'inyan gittin. All right, opposite of what we said before. Just like onus, in other words, we take it into account when it comes to the paying of the ksuba. So too, we'll take it into account. Right, in terms of there's a stipulation for the get, as we'll soon bring in examples, we're going to bring the other cases, the ones as support, we bring as conscious now, right? So when it comes to gittin, those excuses work, right? If it was against someone's, if it wasn't under the control, then we'll say, okay, then it's not necessarily a get. Alma, Sever, Rava, Yesh, Einus Begin. So Rava must hold that there is Einus Begin. There is a claim of onus of, hey, it was an accident that shouldn't count by gittin. So a man says to a woman, this is your get. If I do not return here between now and the next 12 months, and 10 months later he dies, ain't no get. It's not a get. So in other words, it's not a get because he never returned, right? So he never returned. So Meisu ain't no get. But if he was sick, let's say he was he was sick. Harez a get. It would be a get. Why? Right? So if he was sick, it would be a get. In other words, but what do you mean? If he has a good excuse, right? It shouldn't be a get, right? Because he was sick. So what do you see over there? That there is there is no onus claim. So my answer is no. The get. Even if he was sick, also there is no get. He guva kamashlan. What's it going to teach us there? The angeli achamisa is coming to teach you there that if he died in 12 months, i.e., he's not going to go ahead and return, right? Then a get cannot work after someone dies. So Gemara says angeli achamisa hatanale reisha. That was taught in the previous reisha, right, which we brought on that base. So Gemara says no. Dumla afukim el Rabbeinu, right? Perhaps it comes to exclude the Rabbeinu. Over there, they says maybe you can go back they held that if there was a date on it, you could actually go back to the date written on the get, and it's not, it's considered to be okay. So therefore, to exclude that, they asked B'dafka why they wrote the case mace, but sick is also on the same account, and therefore, no onus. So Tashma, come listen. So Miachshav, it says, let's say he writes in there, this will be Miachshav. This will be your get from now, retroactively, if I don't return. Right? So mace, and he dies, Hare get. That is a good get. So my lab, right? So isn't that also that he's sick, and therefore it's a get? We say, there's no bigger excuse than being dead, right? That's why he didn't return, right? And we say, too bad, right? So too, right? So to be sick, it goes back from the case of Miachshav. So Mars is not low. Meis dafka. The tipo kamaya. No, only in the case of die, but maybe in the case of sick. Maybe you would say, no, it's an excuse. The guy was sick. He had to be in, he had to, he had COVID. He had to be in the COVID unit for 7 months. He couldn't return, right? So therefore, maybe that's the case of Mace, because by the case of Mace, there he didn't want her to fall to even, so he Dafka wanted her to become a divorcee, and therefore maybe that case. But if he was sick, he didn't want that to go in effect. So Tashma. If this will be your get if I don't return within 30 days. The Havikita, it will be a good get. Maybe he comes with him back within 30 days. The last minute he's there. Then the bridge is out. And he's across the river. Hey, I'm over here, right? But the bridge is out. Otherwise, I would be there. So we're not divorced. You're still my wife. From Shmuel Lo Shemei Masya. Right? He's considered like he's not there, right? He's not there. He didn't return. He's not there. So what do you mean? You just said there's onus begin. Here's the accident, right? You should take into account. If it wasn't his fault, it should be considered like he's back there. So the Gemara answers, since this was a common oinus, right? This was a common accident, right? The river often overflowed and the bridge was out. So it was a common occurrence. So Shani came in the boiler right? Since it's a common occurrence, he should have stipulated, hey, if I don't come back within 30 days, and by the way, if the bridge is out, right, then I get more time. I get a full 24 hours after they fix the bridge. But he didn't do that. He was the one who lost out on himself. Fine. Period. End of the suit. So in this case, we had two different versions of Rava. Whether or not onus is an excuse when it comes to get.
He holds there is onus unless it's a onus shafia.
Right.
Then it's got to be written.
Right, and because that's really not an onus. That's that you should take into account. Fine. 7 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak lo shanu ela mitakanas as of elach shein batei dinim kui. We only taught that which we taught in Mishnah, that the Sula Nises on Yom HaRavi was only from after the Takanas Ezra that Beis Din sits on Mondays and Thursdays. They wanted them to Beis Din to be kavua. People know when to go to court, so only then. Aval Kaidin Takanas Ezra Shabbat Dinim Kavuim B'chal Yom. But before Ezra, when Bet Dinim could be sitting any day, Isha Nises B'chal Yom. A woman could get married on any day. So Gemara says Kaidin Takanas Ezra. Ma'ida Havi Havi. What are you making a rule for what they could have done in the past? Whatever they did, they did. What do you tell me? A woman can go ahead and get married anytime before Ezra. Okay, shkoyach. That was before Ezra. We're going to do with that halacha now, right? So Ella, right? What does it mean? So Achi Kama, this is what it means to say. I'ika bati dinin dikvuim ha'ina k'kayim takanas Ezra. Then, if it is like the bati dinim are kavuim every day nowadays in a certain place, like it was before takanas Ezra, where they were every day, then Isha Nises B'chal Yom. Then a woman can get married on any day. So if you have a place, let's say, I don't know, the CRC, maybe they're open every day for business, right? So therefore a woman can get married any day. So what do we mean? Habin and Shaktu. Wait, shouldn't we throw out Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, as we said earlier, right? We said earlier that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is not good because we want the husband to go ahead and prepare a Suda for the wife. So that's the case, that's called Shaktu, right? They were Makbid, right? They were Shaktu Chachamim. So so the answer is the Tarek. He was Tarek before, right before Shabbos. He fixed it all. He had refrigeration trucks, whatever it was. He done the Tzarech Tzibur, and therefore he can go ahead and get married even on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. So my Shaktu. What is the case of Shaktu? So where does this come from? So top line, the Tanya, we're going to the Bryce. Now this, right, this Bryce sort of little chaz is what we're discussing until now. So what was the reason why they say to Basula, a woman getting married for the first time in Nisis Liyav gets married on a Wednesday? Shim Hayla Tavis Basulim, because Hayamashka the basic. So if they would go ahead and get married, and they'd have to be a Rishona, if they got married on Wednesday, then they'd be Rishona Wednesday evening, right? And then the next morning, if he had a claim of Tainus Basulam, he found that she wasn't a Basula, and perhaps she was Mizana Tachtav, and she shouldn't be married to him, right? She went ahead and it was with another man while she was a married woman after the Kedushin, right? So therefore, she should go to the basin the next morning. Family times we say, "Hey, Mashkin basin," and he went to basin. So Gemara says, so if that's the case, Becha b'Shabbos. What about Sunday morning? Let him get married on Sunday. Sunday night be Rishon and come to basin on Monday morning. Family times we say, "Hey, Mashkin basin." So Gemara says, "Shaktu chachamim al takanas benas Yisrael she adam tarech b'suda shloisha yam." Right, the chachamim were makpid on behalf of the daughters of Israel that a man should go ahead and toil and go ahead and prepare for a meal for 3 days. Echa b'Shabbos, v'sheni b'Shabbos, v'shish b'Shabbos. Prepare on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, for that reason, in order to get married. And then u'v'ravi kains, and then get married on Wednesday. However, u'misakana v'elech. However, from the time there was a sakana. Nagu am lichnois b'shlishi. We'll soon see what that is. From the time there was a danger to get married on Wednesday, they were noheg, right? Nohagu, the people were noheg to go ahead and get married on Tuesday. And the Chachamim did not stop them from being mean, from customarily getting married on Tuesday. But not all the way to Monday. However, the machmas ha'aynas, if it was for the aynas, right? If it was for the something which was unavoidable, the aynas, mutter, then it will be mutter. And continues the brayso. Umafrishin as a chasim in akala leili Shabbos tchila mipnei shu aisa chabura. And we separate the chasim from the kala on from Friday night, right, from Shabbos, because the bia rishona, right, could cause a chabura. Right, could cause a wound in the woman, right? If she's a basula, right, and she's having bia for the first time, there'll be blood, and then perhaps that is a wound, as we'll soon see. I think Davav discusses it tomorrow, Mitzvah, right? That he goes ahead and he causes a wound. So therefore, in order one cannot go ahead and cause a wound on Shabbos. So therefore, to go ahead and avoid the wound, right? We don't have bia rishona on Shabbos. Now that was the price. So it says because of the sakana. Then they got married on Tuesday. So my sakana, if the sakana or the danger was that they made that the Romans or whichever government was in place would say, hey, whoever went ahead and get married on Wednesday will be killed. So nagu, right? Who just okay, let's customary push it off, so people don't get killed. No, the Gamin Doctrine, it would have uprooted it. Says okay, the Chachamim would have said it's forbidden to get married on Wednesday. Because they're going to kill you. Hey, a basula is getting married on Wednesday, so then the general wants to go ahead and have relations, with every basula, every bride before she gets married. She's getting married on Wednesday. He's gonna chop her up right before that. So then all of a sudden he comes Wednesday, he says, okay, where's the bride? And there's a wedding. Oh, no, she got married yesterday. He goes, oh, I'm too late, right? So, hi, sakana, einasu. So why is this a sakana? It's an einas, right? It's something that, it's not a danger, right? It's a case of einas. It's not her fault, right? And if a woman is violated, so it's what's the big deal? Right? Halachically, right? Hi, sakana, einasu. So our answer is no. Mishum ikat snuas demasin nafshayu lektala. No, the sakana is because you have tznuos who don't know that if they are violated, that they're still mutter to their husbands, and they're so tznuos they're going to give up their life. They're going to refuse until the point of they'll get murdered. And there we don't want them dying. So therefore, that's why it's called a sakana. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and post a rule, and then all the shuls say, hey, if one is violated by the local general or governor or whatever it is, then you're still mutter to your husband. So our answer is now ika prutzas vika nami kohanos, because there are prutzas, right? There are women who will do it. It's only mutter to your husband if it's against your will. But if they go ahead and do it b'kavana, they do it willingly, then it's an issue for her to go to her husband. That's considered to be adultery or a kohanis, right? A woman who's married to a kohen, if she is violated, even if it's against her will, she's forbidden to her husband.
She's not married yet.
Well, she's not. Well, she had kedusha. She had kedusha.
Yeah, kedushin, right.
So therefore, that is considered regarding this matter.
Yeah.
I will akre gzeira. Okay, so he said akre. So okay, so go ahead and uproot it, right? In other words, since the time is a sakana, so okay, say no longer is a rule to get married on Wednesday. So the Gemara answers no. Gzeira avida de batal. A gzeira is only temporary, right? It's with the current governor. He has a 4-year term, and therefore it's going to go away. But takanasa the rabbanan makbe gzeira lo ekvina. But however, takana rabbanan lasts longer, and therefore the takana of the rabbanan, we're not going to go ahead and aiker. We're not going to uproot it on behalf of this temporary law given by the local government. Around 2/3 of the way down on Gimel Amud Beis. Si hachi shlishi nami asi ubar. So what I mean? So once they catch on, right? The guy knows. Okay, every time he comes in on Wednesday, he goes, "Okay, where's my local brides? Oh, the 3 of them got married last night, right? At in the wedding hall, and on Tuesday. Sorry, you're a day too late." So they're going to catch on. So b'shlishi nami asi ubar. So my answer is no, it's fake law or nafshe. Because it's not a rule that to get married on Tuesdays, they might get married on Tuesdays. So therefore, for a suffix, he's not going to go ahead and bother to come to the local Jewish village to find the brides. However, on Monday, the Bnei Yisrael should not get married. However, but if it's because of the einus, right? The accident, something which is unpreventable, then it's mutter. So my einus, what is this einus? If it's that we just said, in other words, the hegemon is going to come to town, let's say the governors, and go ahead and have relations with the local brides. So Hasan Kar the Sakana Kar the Einus. Well, we called that a sakana before, right? And now this is called the Einus. It seems like it's something different. So, and furthermore, Hasan Nagu Hachamutter. Over there it said Nagu. They were nohig to go ahead and get married on Tuesday. And over here, it's saying it's mutter to get married on Monday. Sounds like this sakana and this honest is 2 different things. Samarava, Amri, Sar, Sava, Balair, right? The officer, the general is coming to the city. And so in other words, he's gonna come to the city and he wants food and he's gonna take the big meal. There's a big feast going on, right? Food wasn't as readily available back then, so he's gonna come. Someone prepared for a feast for the wedding. They're gonna come and take it off. So therefore, get married on Monday, right? Or in other words, because they know that there's a wedding on Wednesday. So go ahead. He's gonna come earlier. So dummy. So if he's just passing through one day, so push off to next Wednesday, right? No big deal. You push off 1 more week, and then you'll be fine. You'll have your meal on Wednesday. Everything will be Wednesday, 3 days before. It'll be all good. So Gemara says no. No, he's coming to town, and he's going to be there for a while. So therefore, he's coming, on Wednesday, and therefore, all before. He's going to stay for a while. We don't know how long he's going to stay. So therefore, we got to push up and make it before. So begimel mi'alichnas, right? So why don't you go ahead and get married on Tuesday? So my answer is because his entourage, his people, they come before him. His security detail, they come a day before. So they come on Tuesday. So they come on Tuesday and they start looking for food because they know he's coming tomorrow. So therefore, get married on Monday, and therefore they'll avoid the circumstance. Or v'boy sema.
So what about if it's last minute call? You cancel the wedding.
Better get in. I mean, right. But this is only for the food, right? So this is for the food. But yeah. But I mean, this is like a very specific case it's talking about. Because it's talking about when the army general is coming to town on a Wednesday and he's staying there for a long period of time, and his people are coming on Tuesday. That's the case that the Bryce was referring to. Go ahead and do it Monday. B-boy same, or something completely different. Now we'll get onto a new sugya. My machmas einus. What does it mean? The einus. So he said it was mutter to go ahead and do it on Monday. Kidatanya, we're learning a Bryce. Hare shaya piso afui. The bread was baked. V'tavcho tavuach, and they shechted the meat. V'yayin mazog, and they diluted the wine. Umeis aviv shel chasan or ima shel kala. The father of the groom or the mother of the kala died. They died. They're supposed to have a chasna right then, on let's say on Wednesday, and all of a sudden on Monday, right? They died. The father of the chassan or the mother of the kala. Now you go ahead and you have the levaya. You can't get married. You got to push all off, right? You have avelus first. So what do they do there? They bring the mace, they put him in a side room, they don't bring him out, they don't take him to the cemetery, they don't bury him yet. That's a kala chuppah, then they bring quickly the chassan and the kala to the chuppah. Uboyel, bilas, mitzvah.
How can it be? Because it's owning. Nowadays.
They're owning, but
so the mitzvah of wedding is not existent.
The mitzvah of the wedding didn't, right, but the avelus didn't start yet. We'll soon see. The avelus doesn't start yet until you take.
Owning. Well, how can it be? Mekabel kiddushin when you
Right.
own.
The chassan and kala are not owning him.
No, yeah, one of them is. One of them is. One of them is. One of them is.
Putting the parents in the
There has to be a
I mean,
yeah,
they-
they don't.
Right, no, they know what's going on.
They know what's going on.
Yeah. Right. So they point out they can't bury it because even can chalaveus ha'avel. So in other words, since it didn't start, what happened? Uboil bilas mitzvah. Then they have the bilas mitzvah. Right? They have relations.
But it's mitzvah here again.
Uboil bilas mitzvah. And then, so we put that in hold. This is the onus. This is the onus, right? It's uparesh. And only at that point do they separate from one another, right? And they go ahead and they bury the dead, right? And therefore, the noeg shiva simei mishta, then they have sheva brachos. V'achar kach noeg shiva simei avelus. Then afterwards they have the 7 days of avelus, because the shiva simei hamishta is like a regel, it's like yontif. And since it's like a yontif, it's like any other funeral or something on a yontif, where if it occurs on yontif, the shiva gets pushed off until afterwards. Okay, but
So they have bilas mitzvah, then they do the kfura.
then they do kvura, then they do sheva brachos. No, sheva brachos. Ve'achar kach noeg shiva simei avelus.
Oh, it's other.
Let's look at Rashi for a second, right? Top Rashi, uparesh, right? You go ahead and after the Kriyas Mitzvah they separate. Then v'ikvas the mace miyad. Then they go ahead and bury the dead immediately. The cave and the chalav chasna b'havi the gabi karegel. Since they had the chasna, they did the there. Therefore, we'll say it's like a regel to them. Le'asia velus v'chali, and therefore the velus is not chal yet. And therefore, they had the mishnah, the 7 days of Shev Brachos first, and only afterwards, after the regel, comes in the 7 days of Avelus. And all those days, during those days of during the days of Yimei Mishta, right? He sleeps with the men, she sleeps with the woman. In other words, they don't sleep together. They don't go ahead and remove her jewelry from the 30 days, for the 30 days, certainly beyond, from the woman, because they want her to be beautiful to her husband. Now, that was the price. Now we have the couple items we got to look into. Now, first of all, the dafka aviv shal chasan or ima shal kala, the leki inish tarachlu. And Dafka, the father of the chassan, because who else gets his son ready for marriage besides the father, right, of the groom or the mother of the bride? The leki inish tarachlu, because there is no other people to go ahead and be tarach on their behalf, right? The father of the kala or the mother of the chassan is not the same. About if chalav was opposite, then no, we would not do this. We would say, you know what? Push off the wedding. Go ahead and re-prepare. Specifically, these two re-prepare because they had everything ready to go, and they died. And if they would have put that to the side, they wouldn't have been able to really have a wedding again. So therefore, in that case, that was an inus, right? That was an inus. Go ahead. Let's just do it real quickly. It was ready. They prepared it. Let's go ahead and do it. All right. Yeah, they went around it. I don't know. So Amar Rav Papa, speaking of Keda, Amar Rav Chisa, Loishanu El Shinasan Mayim Al Gavi Basa. There would you say, okay, let's go ahead and take care of it and do it right away. We're talking about where they did not go ahead and I guess started defrosting the meat, put water, the meat, washing it off. I guess which they can't go ahead and preserve it again, right? But they didn't unpreserve it yet. Then you stuff it. Go ahead and sell it, right? There's not going to be a big loss, right? You go ahead and sell it, and then later on you'll buy it again, right? After the availus. And Amarava ubekrach, and even in a large city, in a large city, there's always buyers, right? In other words, you're not going to take a big loss, even if you unpreserve it, you washed it off, the meat is ready to go. Nevertheless, you can go ahead and sell. There's always available buyers. And Amarava, far in a small village, even if you didn't, right, ready to start washing off the meat. You're not forced to sell. You can go ahead and get married. Why? Because there's no buyers, right? It's a small village. No one's getting married for another 4 months. No one's going to buy. There's going to be a huge loss. So therefore, you can go ahead and do it. So according to that's the case. So you just said in a city you always sell it. In a village, you never have to sell. You can go ahead and get married. So what's the case where he says if you wash the meat, then you can go ahead and do the wedding. If you didn't wash it, then just go sell it. So he's saying, all right. So he said, so Amar Rav Ashi could go in Masim Achsia, right? Like a town of Masim Achsia, the Mafka Mikrach or Mafka Mikfar, right? It's not a city, but it's not a village. It's in between. So an in between place, then you're going to find buyers. If it's something that is preserved, but if it's not preserved, then you won't be able to find buyers. Then that's the reason why you can go ahead with the wedding. Fine. Tanya Kavasik Rav Chisa. And we have a brisa in support of Rav Chisa, very similar brisa that we just had, that mentions Rav Chisa was the one who mentioned that if you already washed the meat, right, then there's no need. If you already washed the meat, they already put water and now it's ready to go, then you can go ahead with the chasna. The bread was already baked, and the meat was shechted. Behind mazig, and the wine was diluted. It says before she puts the water on the meat, and then and then the father of the chasen dies, or the mother of the kala. You put the mace in the side room. There's a chasen, there's a kala, and it says quickly chasen kala to the chuppah. And they have bilas mitzvah. Then uparesh, then they separate from one another. V'noeg shiva sivei mishta, and then they have 7 days of yimei mishta. They have the shav brachos. V'achar kach noeg shiva sivei avelus, and afterwards 7 days of avelus. V'chol oisin hayamim, all those days. Uyashim and anashim, v'ishta yishim and anashim. He sleeps amongst the men. She sleeps amongst the women. V'chein. Now this price adds on something else. V'chein mi shapirsa ishta nida. So too. Right? If one was taking his wife to the chuppah and it turns out that she's a nida, so who yashem ben anashim, they don't sleep together. He sleeps with the men. He yishana ben anashim. She's amongst the women. We don't take any jewelry away from the kala for 30 days during the velus. And whether you get married on time or not on time. You should not go ahead and have the Bia Rishayna on Friday, in other words, Friday night, or Motzei Shabbos, right, or Saturday night. We'll soon see by Saturday night. That will be at the end of today's daf. That was the price. Now, Amar Mar. So we just said, Hu Yoshem and Anashim, he Yeshena ben Anashim. So Messiah le Rabbi Yechanan. This is from Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan. Afal pi shamru ein avelas b'moed. Even though we say that there is no mourning during Moed, right, which would be like their Shavrach is like Moed, right, like a holiday. About Dvarim Shel Tzina Noheg, right, of matters of Tzina, right, are Noheg, right. In other words, that there's no tashmish during those days. In other words, that they sleep separate. He sleeps with the men, she sleeps with the women. Darash Rav Yosef Brei the Rava, Mishmei the Rava,
During the Shiva.
during the Shiva, right? So that's why they're separated. And Darash Rav Yosef Brei the Rava, Mishmei the Rava, Lo Yishanu Ela Shelo Bal. We're only talking about, right, that which we say that they don't sleep together. Now, as he sleeps with the men, right? I guess it's like a kibbutz, right? He sleeps in the men's house. She sleeps amongst the women, right? Lo yishanu ela shelo bal, aval bal. Once they have relations, ishto yishanu imo. Then he, even though he's forbidden for relations, right? Nevertheless, he can sleep with his wife. What are you talking about? We just said he's boiled, right? Be a rishayna, and then afterwards he sleeps with the man and she sleeps with the women. So Gemara says no. Ki kamar, that which Rava just said. Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, the name of Rava, said that if you weren't boiled, right, then you can't sleep together. But once he was boiled, then you can sleep with her. That was talking. Ki kamar appears the isha nida, right? When one's wife is a nida. And as if his wife is a nida, and it's during a velus, if they already had bia, if they already had bia rishayna, so then he's allowed to sleep with her. But if it happened to be that she was a nida at the time of the chasna, and then the next day one of them were in a velus, they wouldn't be able to sleep together, because then, since he was never with her, right, there's too big of a yetzer for him to be with her then. So therefore they're not alone. But what do you mean? It says v'chein, right? It's going on all the halachas. It says all the halachas, just like if she's a nida, and it says they all sleep, they sleep separate, right? So the answer is no. Hachi kamar. This doesn't mean say v'chein, so too misha appears to isha nida v'loy bal, so too. Just like we said in the case, right? Earlier. Right, when he sleeps amongst the men and she's amongst the women, right? And he was not baal, right? That he sleeps amongst the men and she sleeps amongst the women. But in the case of velus, right, they sleep apart. In the case of nida, only if he was baal, right? In that case. So the Memra, now, the Avelus. So at this point, right? The thought is, right? We have some time, right? Okay, good. All right. Yeah, okay. Fine. See, this is only familiar with the daf, right? So at this point, right, we have in the case of when they got married was during this unique case of Avelus, that even though they would do the Bir Rishona, they sleep separated, right? As it says, he sleeps with the men, she sleeps with the women. In the case of a nida, right, if they never had bia, then he sleeps with the men and she sleeps with the women. But if they already had bia rishona, right, and she was a nida, then there's no need to separate. They sleep together, right? So Gemara says, "Lememra de avelus kila le minida." Are you telling me that avelus is more makel in their eyes than nida? In other words, like this, avelus, right? In the case of our case, when the mother or father dies, right? We don't trust them. Why? Because maybe they look at avelus, very lightly, right? So we don't trust them. You sleep with the man, you sleep with the woman. But when it comes to she's a nida, right? They don't treat it so lightly. So therefore, they can even sleep in the same house, be alone in the same house, and we're not concerned, right? So Lemema de Avelus Kal Levinida, Bamarav Yitzah Barchanina, Amarav Huna, Kol Melacha Isha Isilabala, any melacha that a woman, right, does for her husband, Nida Isilabala, a woman does that for her husband. Chutz, except for three things. Mizigas Hakos, right? Pouring diluting his cup of wine in front of him, or his cup, right? Or making the beds in front of him, or chasas panav yadav v'raglav, or washing his face and his hands and his feet. So those things are forbidden. Those things are forbidden when she's a nida. We don't trust that because that could go ahead and lead to tashmish. The ilu gabi avelus, but by gabi avelus, tani will learn a brisa. Even though, right, when it comes to avelus, right, he can't force her, she can't, right? He can't force to go ahead and put on a face of makeup or put on your eyeshadow or mascara, whatever, right? He can't force his wife to go ahead and do that, right? In other words, I guess normally one could go ahead and demand, right? So nevertheless, but she can, but she can go ahead and dilute his cup, and she can, make the bed in front of him and wash his hands and his feet and his face. She can do all those. So what do you see over here? When it comes to Avelus, right, we trust, right? We trust them. She can go ahead and do these things for him. She can make his bed for him, right? She can, dilute his cup, right? But when it comes to Nida, we said you can't do it. So now it's opposite what we said before. Over here, we're trusting an Avelus to go ahead and make your bed and dilute your cup. But we just said earlier, by Avelus, we don't trust them to sleep in the same room together. He sleeps with the men and she sleeps with the woman. So which one is it? So loikash, it's not a contradiction. Kan be'Avelus didei, kan be'Avelus dida. It's different when it's his Avelus, right? So a man doesn't, he can be tempted, right? He can be tempted, even if he's in mourning and, right, his mind can go elsewhere. He's just lost, in our case, he lost his father, right? So he, all of a sudden, his wife makes his bed and also can lead to relations. So therefore, in that case, when it comes to Avelus Dida, his Avelus, we don't trust him. Her Avelus, right? Then we trust him. In other words, we can trust that her to do it. He says, okay, relations. She's like, not a chance, Charlie, right? I have a headache, right? So come as they done. It won't work. Oh, slow down there. How could you say our case when they don't sleep together in the same room is only talking about her Avelus and not his? Or 1 second. When we don't trust them, right? Because it's his Avelus, right? It's only talking about his case. It also is only talking about her case. It's also his case, right? When he says Avi Shechasan, right? The father dies, right? So, or her mother dies. So it's both of them. So Kiktani Ashara. So that's just talking about on the other case, not this case. And if it's her father, then they can sleep together. Actually, if it's her mother, then they can sleep in the same room together, right? If it's his father, then they're not trusted. Then he sleeps amongst the women and she sleeps amongst the women. And is there a difference between whether she's his Shiva, right? He's in Shiva, or she is. But Tanya Misha Mace Chamav. If someone, his father-in-law or mother-in-law dies, i.e., she's an Avelus. Right? He can't go ahead and force his wife to put on her makeup or her eyeshadow. Rather, he flips over his bed, right, and and lies on the floor and sleeps on the floor and flips his bed, just like and he has Avelus with her. It's just like she is kaifas mitasa, right? Just like since she's in mourning, she flips her bed. So too, he should flip his bed and minoeg Avelus with her. So to her, if she lost her mother-in-law or father-in-law. She's not proper for her to go ahead and put on makeup like it's a normal day. She flips over her bed and has Avelus with him. Right? So therefore, what do you see over here? We see that they do apply together at the at the same time. So the answers. So Tani of Avelus Didei who Yashim and Anashim v'Ishta Yishem and Anashim. So I said, okay, fine. When it comes to his Avelus, only then in that case, he sleeps amongst the men. And it should have said in this Bryce over here that in the case of when he's an Avelus, right, then in addition to her flipping the bed, then also, by the way, he sleeps with the men and she sleeps with the women. That's another condition you just left out, right, conveniently from the Bryce. But it says v'chein. If you look at the Bryce, it says, it's like the two equal cases, right? If he lost his in-laws, or she lost her in-laws, and it's the same halachas. So when it says Kiktani, so it says no Kiktani Akicho ve'apirkos. No, it's only referring to the makeup. But it says with him. You sleep with him, right? Va'imo, it says over there. The no hagas imo avelus, right? She's now with him avelus. So my lav imo b'mita is not referring to with him in the bed. And it was a flip bed, right? Lo imo b'bayis. No, with him in the house. Ukadamar le Rav Rav Lechia Berei, Rav said Lechia's son. Biapa nog Avelusa. When it's in front of her, then he's knowing Avelos. The Laapa Deloy to Nog Avelusa. He doesn't have to be knowing Avelos, but in front of her, he should, act in ways of mourning in the house. But when it comes to sleeping at night, then he does not go ahead and sleep in the same room or same room with her because he sleeps with the man, she sleeps with the woman. And Rav Ashi Amar. So Rashi is me kamadamis Avelos the Hachal Avelos the Alma. Wait, no. New tears. The whole reason why in this Avelus that we don't go ahead and allow them to sleep together, in other words, in the case of, let's say, he lost his father or she lost her mother, in that case, we say they sleep separately. But normally in case of Avelus, right, we trust them and she's allowed to go ahead and wash his face and those type of things. So why are you comparing this Avelus to standard Avelus, right? So Avelus, because the Avelus the Alma, so Avelus the Alma chamer, right? Normal Avelus is chamer, and they're not going to come to mezalzel it. However, Avelus the Hacha came in the Akila Rabban and Asel Zuzulebe. But this Avelus, they've already been makil about it, so they come to be mezalzel it. So the Gemara says, "My kula," right? Right? So what do you mean? So maybe we're saying in this case, since we were not so machmer when it comes to Avelus, that maybe they're going to also be mezalzel of Avelus later on. And how are we making this Avelus? Because we allow them to go ahead and do the bias mitzvah, right? The Yigal in the beginning says, "Oh, what do you mean? He's owning. What's going on? Like, how can they? They should Avelus is first." So Elam is going to bias mitzvah paresh hasam. They should go Avelus because Avelus didn't start. When does Avelus start? Rabbi Eliezer, according to Eliezer, ad sheyatza mipesach habayis. According to Eliezer, the Avelus starts. The morning really starts when you bring the mace outside the house. Once you leave outside the house, once the morning period begins, and either Rabbi Yeshua, and according to Yeshua, yistem agolo, until the stone covers the coffin, right? Until that. Rather, it says, no, it's not that fact, because that's the Avelus started. Rather, the fact that we say that they do the Shivas Yimei Mishta, first they have the 7 days of Sheva Brachos, and then they have the Avelus. So since they had the 7 days of Sheva Brachos, so they were sort of already have been mezalzel the Avelus, and therefore, so we're concerned that they're further going to be mezalzel the Avelus. So therefore, in this unique circumstance, we say he sleeps amongst the men, she sleeps amongst the women, but normally that's not the situation when it comes to Avelus. Amar Mar, 2 lines in the bottom. We'll just get to the top of the page, and then everyone will have plenty of time to say all the karbanos they want, right? Amar Mar, benkach ubenkach. What was that?
You already said
All right, so benkach ubenkach la yibel. Right, so either way, whether a person got married on time or not on time, or his own is not, so he said they can't have relations on either Friday night or Saturday night. So Shabbos, Nishum Chabura. I understand, which we'll look into. I think it's tomorrow or Vav, right? I think right on Erev Shabbos because of Chabura, because one could cause a wound, right? Perhaps when the Biri Shaina, when she bleeds, that is causing an actual Chabura, which is also on Shabbos. So that's the reason why I can't have Biri Shaina on Friday night. El Mati Shabbos, but for Mati Shabbos, why not? So Reb Zera says Reb Zera, Mishum Cheshbonos. Because of Cheshbonos, you're going to have to make a big party Saturday night, right? So you can have all these Cheshbonos on Shabbos. I got to do this, right? So look at Rashi, right? Mishum Cheshbonos. Shim Yichos Mot Shabbos Yasa Suda B'Layla V'Yichsho B'Shabbos Ma'ot Tzurich L'Haitziv Ksiv Davidar. So it says over there, you can do all these cheshbonos on Shabbos, even in your mind. So therefore, it's not proper to do it on Shabbos. You shouldn't be thinking about it. So therefore, we want to avoid making this big suda. Therefore, you can't go. Don't get married on Motzi Shabbos. And only by the cheshbonos shel mitzvah miyasiri. But what's the problem with cheshbonos shel mitzvah? Rav Chiza, Rav Nuna, Davar Tavaya, both of them say, right? Get out your pens. So this is we see a lot of these in your Shabbos miras. We say, right? Cheshbon shel mitzvah muter lechashbon b'Shabbos. You go ahead and make cheshbon of a mitzvah on Shabbos. From Ezer, Paiskin, Tzedakah, any of Shabbos. You can go ahead and give out or arrange, right, for tzedakah on Shabbos, right? And Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yechon, Hochel, but the Knesset, but the Midrash, the Bakech, Haliske, Rabbim, b'Shabbos. You go ahead and raise up issues and tell people about different matters of to different shuls for the needs of the Rabbim on Shabbos. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Idi, Rabbi Yechon, Maftichin, Pikoch, Lev Shabbos. You also go ahead and you can do different heterim are involved to save a life on Shabbos. You can go ahead and publicize that. Rav Shmuel bar Chmani, Rabbi Yonasan, Hochel the Tartiyas, the Karkiyas, the Pakech Rabbi Shabbos. You can go ahead different theaters and amp, right, to raise awareness about different public matters. The Tanarei Menashya, the Shadchin al Tinoikais. Right, you can go ahead and make shidduchim Ularis have a Shabbos, and make those arrangements on Shabbos. Valentino Kalam to Sefer. Right, and also children to go ahead and to teach them, to teach them Lamda Umnos and teach them a trade. All these things are permitted on Shabbos. These are shtickle mitzvahs, right? So what's wrong with the cheshbonos for the mitzvah of Friday night? Salam Rab Zera Shema Yishchad Benov. Right? Perhaps he might come to go ahead and even on Shabbos itself, to basically, what time the Shabbos end? I think it ends at Shkia, right? So now, then maybe they're going to start doing the actual preparations for Motzei Shabbos. So therefore, in order to avoid that, not just the Cheshbonos, if it's just Cheshbonos, we fine. But since they might come to do Malacha, we say, you know what? No Saturday night weddings in order to avoid any Chil Shabbos. Right? We'll stop here. We will continue from here and.